Welcome back. And right now you're looking at a live picture of Pope Francis celebrating Holy Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. Good evening. I'm Christine Johnson.
And I'm Maurice Dubois in Washington. We have been watching the papal mass being celebrated right now, along with Father Jim Marr. We should say welcome to you. It's good to see you. He's the president of Niagara University. He also spent about 23 years at St. John's University, so a New Yorker as far as I can tell, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's great to have you with us. So you've been listening to the homily, and we heard the Holy Father saying, "Go forth." He said it many times throughout the homily, in keeping with his sort of message, correct? And what do you think he meant?
Well, I think, Maurice, what he's really focusing people on action. And if you think about one thing that's the hallmark of this Holy Father is, it's the old Franciscan saying, preach the gospel with all your power and use words only when necessary. So his preaching is really seen not only in the proclamation of words, but by bold actions. And that's really what he's calling and challenging and inviting us all to do through this homily today and through his papacy.
I've been struck by the bluntness and the boldness of the way he's been speaking. For example, you were at the White House earlier this morning, which, I mean, we'll get into that in just a second, the sensation. But in what he said, the substance of it, he got right up there and went right at it. Immigration, you know, religious freedom, the environment. He was blunt and bold, and that's a hallmark of his papacy.
It sure is, and I think he's, you know, he's not sparing any time. You know, I think he's really focused on, you know, challenging church leaders, on challenging the church, on challenging leaders in general in society to say we have critical issues that we have to face, issues that around poverty, issues around care for the earth, issues around living simply, and this throwaway culture that he often speaks about. And what he spoke about today at the White House, and he's repeated consistently, is creating a culture of what he calls in Spanish encuentro, or encounter. And so the engagement of people where all human lives matter, and that's really what's so central to his papacy, that no one should be thrown away, whether that's the care for the earth, whether that's a policy, an economic policy that discards people, whether that's the immigrant or the refugee. So it's that culture of encounter, of engagement, of dialogue, of listening that he's really focused on.
What about for you being one of 15,000 at the White House, South Lawn, Pope, President, I mean, dignitaries from everywhere? What was that sensation like? That had to be something.
It was amazing, and the image that sticks with me was the Holy Father came in with a Fiat. and so, you know, it's sort of the symbol really matches the rhetoric and the reality. And so we sort of got a great glimpse as he as he drove through and was dropped off and waved. But that's really, for me, what stays with me is his real focus on simplicity of life. And as a priest, as an educator, I know I'm particularly challenged to say, how am I trying to live simply? And so how do you create that connection between what you consume and the people who produce that? So you really create that ecology of spirit that he's written and spoken about.
He talks it and he certainly walks it. Father Jim Marr, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the insight. And as we take one more look live inside the National Basilica, the canonization Mass, Pope Francis is presiding and really celebrating his first Mass in the United States right now, a very special one. That's all from Washington right now. We'll send it back to you, Christine.
Okay, Maurice, thank you, and Father as well.